Some memories stick with you for years, and you don't always realize how much they've changed you until much later. For me, it wasn't a car accident or a breakup or anything people might consider life-changing. It was my freshman year of college, and it started with something so small. I almost ignored it. My roommate never seemed to sleep. That was my first year away from home, living in a dorm for the first time. I'd been nervous about the whole idea of sharing a room with a stranger. But when I met her, let's call her Claire, she seemed fine. Quiet, polite, kind of distant, but not rude. She was the type who unpacked everything neatly, color-coded her binders, and kept her side of the room spotless. Compared to the horror stories I'd heard about nightmare roommates, I figured I'd gotten lucky. At first, everything was normal. I had late classes, she had morning ones, so our schedules didn't overlap much. But after the first few weeks, I started noticing little things that felt off. For example, every time I woke up at night, whether it was from a noise in the hallway, my phone buzzing, or just restlessness, Claire was awake. Not just awake, but lying in bed, stiff and perfectly still, facing the wall. Her breathing always sounded a little too deliberate, like she was forcing herself to make the rhythm of sleep without actually being asleep. At first, I brushed it off. Some people are light sleepers. Some people struggle with insomnia. I tried not to judge. But after a while, it started to weigh on me. Weeks went by, and I realized I had never, not once, actually seen her asleep. Then came the weekends. Claire went home every Friday, suitcase in hand, and returned Sunday night. I liked having the room to myself, and honestly, I looked forward to it. But when she came back, that's when things got strange. The first time it happened, I woke up around 3 a.m. to the feeling of pressure on my mattress. It was subtle at first, just a slight dip, like someone had sat on the edge of the bed. My brain struggled to catch up, and I told myself maybe I was imagining it, half dreaming. But then the weight shifted, moving closer, pressing down right beside my hip. I forced myself to look, expecting to see Claire sitting there. But when I turned my head, her bed was occupied. She was lying under the covers, her back turned, her body angled toward the wall. Her breathing was steady, too steady, like she wanted me to think she was asleep. I didn't move. I didn't dare. I just lay there, staring into the dark, waiting for the pressure to fade. After a while, it did. When morning came, I tried to convince myself it had been sleep paralysis, some trick of a half dream. But it happened again. Every Sunday night, like clockwork, I'd wake in the dark, feel the weight settle on the mattress beside me, and fight the urge to move or speak. Sometimes it was light, like someone perching on the corner of the bed. Other times, it shifted closer, the dip pressing down just inches from where my body lay stiff under the blanket. And every time I looked, every time, Claire was in her bed, facing the wall, never turning over, never acknowledging anything. After the third or fourth time, I stopped looking. I couldn't. Whatever I'd see, whether it was her or something else, I didn't want to know. But one night, I woke up again to that familiar weight, heavier this time, like someone sitting close to my knees. My heart hammered as I turned my head, just slightly, to peek at Claire's bed. She was lying on her side as always. Her breathing filled the room, deep, too controlled, like each inhale and exhale was being measured. I remember thinking, she's pretending. She wasn't asleep. She was faking it, listening, waiting for me to react. I squeezed my eyes shut and forced myself not to move. That's when I felt it. A hand. Cold fingers rested gently on the back of my neck, not squeezing, not hurting, just lingering there like a reminder that I wasn't alone. I wanted to scream, but my body locked. I couldn't even breathe properly. The hand stayed for what felt like forever, then slowly pulled away. By morning, nothing looked different. Claire got up, showered, and went about her routine like always. She never mentioned anything, never even hinted at what was happening. At that point, I was barely sleeping at all. I'd stay up late, afraid to close my eyes, and then crash out of exhaustion, only to wake in the middle of the night with that same pressure beside me. I tried dropping hints, asking her if she was okay, if she ever had trouble sleeping, if she walked around at night. She always answered calmly, politely, with this faint smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. It got so bad that I started crashing in friends' rooms, pretending it was for fun or group study sessions. Anything to avoid sleeping in that room alone with her. Eventually, I went to my RA and requested a room change. I came up with some excuse about scheduling conflicts, needing a different environment, whatever it took to not sound crazy. After a week of paperwork, I finally got assigned to a new room across campus. Moving day felt like a weight off my chest. I packed up my stuff while Claire sat on her bed, quietly folding clothes. She didn't say much, just watched with that same faint smile. The last thing she said to me before I left was, "You're really going to sleep better over there." I froze. The way she said it, not as a question, but as a statement, like she already knew what was happening to me or what is doing this to me. I never saw her again. She transferred the next semester, or maybe she just moved to another dorm. I don't really know, but even now, years later, I still wake up sometimes in the middle of the night, certain I'll feel the mattress dip beside me, and that a hand will brush the back of my neck like it used to. And every single time I lie there staring into the dark, wondering what was really wrong with her. Maybe I should have asked more questions, tried harder to help instead of just running, because sometimes it feels like there was something with her. Everyone has that one memory they can't shake, no matter how much time passes. For me, it's the sound of something crawling above my head in the ceiling, and the grin of a man who acted like he'd been waiting for me to notice. This was during my junior year of college. I'd always been a procrastinator, and finals week brought out the worst in me. While everyone else packed into the library or huddled in coffee shops, I preferred the business building on campus. It wasn't the most welcoming place. The walls were this dull beige, the lighting flickered, and the hallways echoed in a way that always reminded me of a hospital. But that was exactly why I liked it. Nobody else wanted to be there, which meant I usually had entire classrooms to myself. That night, it was close to midnight when I hauled my backpack up 3 flights of stairs and picked one of the smaller rooms near the end of the hallway. I locked the door behind me out of habit, set my laptop and books on the desk, and tried to convince myself I was ready to cram half a semester into one night. For a while, everything felt normal. The hum of the lights, the tapping of my keys, the scratch of my highlighter across notes. And then I heard footsteps. At first, I barely noticed. People passed through sometimes. Janitors, security guards, or even other students. But these footsteps were slow, almost hesitant. They echoed down the hall, then paused right outside my door. I took my headphones out and stared at the small window in the door. Nothing, just the empty hallway. I tried to shake it off, but then the handle rattled. It wasn't subtle either. Whoever it was twisted it sharply, like they were trying to get inside. My chest tightened. For several seconds, the door shook under the pressure, and I couldn't move. I just stared, waiting for someone's face to appear in the glass. Then it stopped. Silence. The kind of silence that makes every nerve in your body scream. I sat frozen at my desk, my heart pounding in my ears. After a minute or two, I convinced myself it had to be security. Maybe they were just checking doors. Maybe they'd moved on. I forced myself to go back to my laptop, but my hands were trembling so badly that I kept mistyping words. And that's when the ceiling creaked. It started with one sharp groan of the tile above me, like wood shifting, then another. The sound was heavy, dragging, too heavy to be just the building settling. I looked up. A fine layer of dust drifted down onto my keyboard. There was someone up there. My stomach flipped. I pressed back in my chair, staring up as the footsteps crawled across the ceiling, slow and deliberate. Each tile bowed slightly under the weight, like it couldn't hold much longer. Then the steps stopped, right above me. The room went still, but I could hear it. The faint sound of breathing, slow, ragged breaths filtering through the thin plaster. My throat locked. If I screamed, I was terrified the ceiling would give way and he'd drop right down on top of me. I couldn't take it. I slammed my laptop shut, grabbed my bag, and bolted for the door. The hallway was empty, but I didn't care. I sprinted toward the stairwell, my sneakers pounding against the floor. I hit the landing and froze. There was a man leaning against the railing, waiting. His clothes were grimy, his hair stringy and plastered to his forehead, and he wore this awful grin that made my skin crawl. He didn't move. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me like he'd been expecting me all along. Something in me snapped. I turned and tore back down the hallway, searching for another exit. My lungs burned as I flew down the far stairwell and shoved through the door into the night. I didn't stop running until I was halfway across campus, my chest tight and my legs shaking. The next morning, I went straight to campus security. They searched the building, checked the stairwells, even looked at the ceilings, but they didn't find anything. No broken tiles, no sign of forced entry. One of the guards even suggested I'd been stressed and imagining things. And later that day, when I went back to grab my charger from the classroom, I saw it. On the desk where I'd been sitting, in the thin layer of dust that had fallen from the ceiling, was the outline of a shoe. Just the heel, pressed into the surface. I don't know how he got in that building. I don't know how long he was up there watching me. But I do know one thing. That grin he gave me on the stairwell wasn't random. He knew exactly where I was, the whole time, and he'd been waiting for me to come out.